Hello and welcome to the A.E.Mackintosh Cleaning Services channel. So as you know, I've been trying to share a few stories from window cleaners that I know, window cleaners that I come into contact with, and the different ways that they do things. So it was really good, I think, to share kind of John's story and the way he does things. And there'll be a playlist on my channel. I'll call it something like Friends of A.E.Mackintosh, and there'll be a selection of some different things like this.
Lovely.
So this is tidy.
Yeah, got gutter clearing stuff. I just clip it on the other end. Show it there. Right by the tap.
And that's how you fill the fill the barrels.
Fill the barrels and fill that, yeah. So I leave it in the van because it's easy to use. So obviously that goes in either the containers or there. There's two things of water.
2 barrels of pure water in the back there.
Sorry, let me move that towel out of the way. And the resin. There's the water.
So you filter it on the way in.
Yep.
Through the resin.
Yes.
And do you know how hard your water is coming out of your tap?
158.
About 158. So it goes through the resin and
you're at 0.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you just use the Gardiner backpack.
Well, this is a sack cart.
Sack barrow?
From B&Q.
And that's it.
Got protective handles, don't bash your hands when you go through. And
brilliant.
Made a rack for the...
And what's this pole, Gardiner?
Yep.
SLX?
Yeah, 27 foot thing. Written on here somewhere, isn't it? There we are.
CLX.
27 foot.
Nice. So
keeps it out of the way. I've got a thing at the back there with all the other equipment in, a spare brush. I change the brush if I do gutters, fascias and soffits. I use a different brush for that, which is fan rather than a
so you've got some decent traditional kit here as well.
Yep.
And a little point ladder.
Yep, still use that.
We've got a tidy little setup there. So this is a really good example, I think, of like a budget, like quite a budget, cheap way of doing it. Pure water window cleaning, as well as traditional kit.
Because I'm near the garage, I could just charge the battery at the bottom of the... That's a backpack, isn't it? But I don't think anybody put that in their back, would they? To be quite honest.
So you don't just clean windows though, do you? Because you do other maintenance stuff as well.
Oh, loads of other things, yeah.
And you've got a maintenance contract where you do windows and you're doing some other stuff as well?
No, I do all the maintenance on 9 blocks of flats and some grounds.
Okay. And you were asking me about some of the doing some roof cleaning.
Yeah.
And the tools you need for that. So that's something you're looking at doing as well.
Absolutely. Yep. It's one thing leads to the other, doesn't it?
Brilliant.
Well, the idea of this was a health and safety issue initially, because some of the windows are really awkward. But what I find now is when I've done the awkward ones on a house, a bit dodgy, I think there's only 2 or 3 more. I'll do those while I'm at it. And I found as a result of it, I'm not running up and down the ladder for 50 times a day and carrying it around. So
you've only recently gone over to this pure water system. How long have you been using it this way?
About 6 months. Yeah.
And you prefer it from going up and down the ladder?
It's certainly safer. And I've got some 3-story houses. Of course, I used to do it for triple, which my wife was horrified by. In fact, one of the customers, when I told him what I was going to do, I had to explain I was now have a dirty great brush going up to his window rather than me.
Yeah.
And I told him about it, and he went, "Oh, thank goodness." I said, "What?" He said, "It terrifies me every time you got that." Because underneath is block paving and concrete, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that was one of the original tensions.
So what's brilliant about this is I think it's a really good example. You don't always have to have an elaborate van mounted setup.
No, exactly.
But this is a real simple way you can do pure water window cleaning.
Absolutely.
So
well, lots of people start with this and then go over to it, and
indeed.
If you haven't got the money, just set the whole van like it. But the trouble is, if I set the whole van up like it, I'm restricted for other things, aren't I?
Because you do.
Yeah.
Because you're very handy. We should talk about some of your background a bit more as well.
Oh,
we should say that John hasn't always been a window cleaner. Used to be a photographer. Do you want to say that?
Can do.
Well, years ago, John. I will say that John used to work for the paper a lot, didn't you? A lot taking photos for the paper, and then for the football club, Brighton and Hove Albion.
Well, I worked for Ripper newspapers. There were 28 papers in the group, and
Yeah,
they got taken over. But as we all know, with advertising revenue these days,
it's all
not
changed,
yeah.
isn't it?
So, not many local papers exist now.
But you photographed some famous people, didn't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Over the years, I've photographed all the royal family, celebrities.
Princess Diana.
Oh yeah, she had an old aura about her. It's funny enough, the newspaper world was a very close setup. Lots of reporters trained to go and do other things, don't they? I'm terribly sorry to tell you this, but I took Piers Morgan on his first job in Sutton when he was a junior reporter.
Okay.
But yeah, they go elsewhere. When they heard I'd been made redundant, a lot felt it was very unfair. So lots that were like public relations officers or other publicity picked up loads of work from them, principally because I did imaginative pictures, not your boring old rubbish. So lots of the companies found that I gave them pictures that were used, and the Evening Argus was a really good daily paper.
Yeah.
That like good pictures. It's always nice to work for somebody like that.
And you do take good pictures. And then you used to work for the Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club for a long while. You were the official photographer.
I was, yeah,
for the
when
football
I was
club.
freelancing.
And you really enjoyed taking sport photos, didn't you?
I'm not a football fan, but I was then. Yeah.
And you took some really great pictures.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. Well, I'm not very good at sitting and watching things. I couldn't sit and watch a football match. I've got to have a camera in my hand and be doing something.
But you enjoyed that. Yeah.
So, and then of course, you know, even the Evening Argus doesn't have a photographic department anymore. They just close them all down. They think anyone with a camera is a photographer. As I point out to many people, I've got a calculator, but that doesn't make me an accountant. So it's not true, is it? But that's what they think now.
And then after that, you kind of did some property and stuff because you're very handy. And then even now, you're trying to slow down, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, my uncle used to own a building company, and I think it's in the blood somewhere.
So now you're just doing a bit of maintenance for people, doing a bit of window cleaning, and so so it's really interesting to see your setup and the way you do it.
I do about 4,000 miles a year now, locally.
Yeah, rather than all the travelling that you used to do, taking pictures.
Stuck on the motorways, I was doing 30,000 a year. So this, I work locally, come back for lunch.
And you enjoy what you're doing? You can be flexible?
Got a variety of things, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
You've got to be prepared to change and move ahead, haven't you? So that's why, you know, water-fed pole systems.
It's
what people, I've actually got customers now who say they prefer it done that way, whereas before they would say they don't like it and can you do it the traditional way?
Very
So
good.
things change. They've all seen people around the towns with vans and all the equipment, so they weren't surprised when I started using a
Very good.
pole, you know.
So it was really good, I think, to share kind of John's story and the way he does things. And I think I've always found John an inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
To be honest.
How kind.
Yeah.
I hope this inspires other people to do something similar.
Well, yeah, it's good to see how it's done. And thanks, John, for sharing us telling us your story.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.